Deep beneath the streets of London, one of the oldest tube trains, still in service, is hurtling through Victorian-era tunnels at 60 miles an hour. And today, you're driving it. Welcome back to the channel today. We're jumping into Train Sim World 6, and we're taking the legendary 1972 Mark II tube stock all the way from Queen's Park, down through the heart of London, and into Elephant and Castle. This is the deep level section. All tunnels, all the atmosphere, all the challenge. Let's go!
Right, so for anyone who doesn't know me, welcome. I'm Matt. On this channel, we do train simulation, proper driving, proper chaos, when it all goes wrong. Bakerloo Line add-on for Train Sim World 6 is generally one of my favourite routes, and that's saying something because I've driven a lot of virtual trains on this channel. There's something about the underground section that just hits different. The tunnels, the stations, the sounds. We're starting at Queen's Park today, which is the last surface station before the line dips underground for a good southbound run. From there it's all tunnel until we roll into Elephant and Castle. 16 stations of pure underground action. I'll be pointing out landmarks, tricky stops, interesting history along the way, so stay with me. Alright, let's just quickly appreciate this cab. 1972 Mark II stock. This thing is over 50 years old in real life. Still running, still serving Londoners every single day. Dovetail have modelled it really well. You've got your camshaft controller here, which is how you apply power. It's not like the modern push button setups. You physically are working through notches. Dead man's handle, you let go of that and the train stops automatically. So you have to keep your hand on it at the whole time. Sounds simple, but after 20 minutes your hands generally starts to ache. Speed limits on the deep level sections are around 20 to 45 miles per hour between stations, but the gaps are short. You're accelerating, then you're almost immediately you're thinking about braking. The stopping is a real skill here. You've got to hit the platform markers bang on, within about a metre either side, or the doors don't align with the platform edge properly. First stop, Kilburn Park. Opened in 1915. We're already in the deep level section, about 20 metres below street level here. Watch the platform. I want to stop the front of the cab lined up right on the marker. Not bad, slight overshoot there, maybe half a metre, but within tolerance. Trick on these shorter interstations is barely a full speed. Or you're already thinking about your next stop. It's very different from mainline driving. No long cruise sections, it's constant management. Doors closing, moving off. Maida Vale coming up. Beautiful station, this one. Opened in 1915 as well. It actually still has its original lazy green designed facade above ground. The dark Oxford red terracotta tiles are the iconic of the early deep level tube stations. You can't see them, any of them, from the cab, obviously, but it's worth knowing. Now I stop, one thing I want to mention, the 1972 stock doesn't have any modern driver assistance, no automatic stopping, no ATO on this line, everything is manual. That's what makes it interesting, and that's what makes it feel genuinely vintage. Alright, Warwick Avenue, next. Avenue, very posh area above us. Little Venice is just round the corner, up top. The Regent's Canal runs right through there. Meanwhile, we're down here in the dark, which feels very unfair. Now this is a big one. Paddington. Obviously one of the busiest interchange stations in London. And above us, you've got the mainline Paddington terminus, the Great Western Railway, the Elizabethan line, Heathrow Express, massive hub. Down here on the Bakerloo, it's just one platform each way, and it can get absolutely rammed in peak times. In the game, you'll see passenger density increase noticeably at the interchange stations like this. The crowd simulation is actually really good. You'll have people pushing the doors, filling the carriages, it gets immersive. Stop, doors open, gives them a moment to board, right, doors closing. Next up, Edgware Road, and this is where it gets interesting because we're heading deeper into central London now. Edgware Road, not to be confused with the Circle, District or Hammersmith and City, Edgware Road Station, which is a completely different station, just a short walk away. Different platforms, different lines, different tunnels. London Underground is wild like that. Quick stop here, but moving on. Marylebone, cosy little station, named after the mainline terminus, that is about 10 minutes walk away. Also named after the area it comes from, St Mary by the Bourne. The Bourne being an old stream that used to run through here. Now it's just Marylebone. Braking, that was a lovely stop. Doors, we go. Baker Street. 221B, of course, is just up the road. The fictional home of Sherlock Holmes. Obviously completely made up. There's a museum there and everything. A very good gift shop apparently. Baker Street is significant in tube history. One of the oldest stations on the entire network. Part of the original Metropolitan Railway that opened in 1863. Bakerloo tunnels here are much newer, 1906, but the history layered into this station is incredible. This is also a major interchange for the Metropolitan, Jubilee, Circle, District, Hammersmith and City all share this complex. Real life, there are sections of Baker Street where you can literally see the old 1863 era brickwork next to the 1970s concrete, next to the modern signet. It's a time capsule. Right, we're heading into the really glamorous part of the run. Regents Park. One of the quietest stops on this section was a charming one. Park above is one of London's royal parks. The zoo is up there too. The London Zoo has been there since 1828. Meanwhile, we're about 25 metres below the penguin enclosure. Moves up, doors, let's keep moving. Circus. The game really does reflect how busy the station is. You can see the platform filling up. This is one of the busiest stations on the entire underground network in real life. Something like 100 million passengers a year pass through Oxford Circus. Hold the brake steady. Come on. There, perfect stop. This is where you see the advantage of knowing the platform lengths. Oxford Circus isn't the longest platform, but the marker is clearly signed. And if you've been doing this a few times, you start to get to feel for exactly where to brake. Doors open, a bit of dwell here, lots of passengers boarding. The game models the longer boarding times at busier stations, which is a nice touch for timetable management. Doors closing, nearly there. Only a few more stops now. Oxford Circus to Elephant and Castle. This is the final furlong. Piccadilly Circus, the centre of London, as the tourists say. Though I'm not sure any Londoner would actually agree with that. The EOS statue is up there, the big advertising screens. Absolute carnage at most rush hours of the day. Down here though, all very calm. A bit of that beautiful 1920s tiling. Braking on approach, nice stop. You know what? I've been having a really good run today. Everything's been clean. Doors, right, Charing Cross next. This is where it gets properly exciting because we're crossing under the Thames soon. Charring Cross, directly below the main line station. Trafalgar Square is basically right above us. The National Gallery, the Lions, Nelson's Column, all sitting right on top of these tunnels. This stop always feels slightly dramatic to me because you know what's coming next. We're crossing under the River Thames between here and Waterloo. 25 metres underwater in a 50-year-old train. Brakes, door, moving away, and now we go under the river. By now we're under the Thames. Generally, the river is directly above us. I know it's just a game, but every time I go through this section, I get a tiny bit of a feeling. There's Victorian and Edwardian engineers built these tunnels by digging through the riverbed and lining them with cast iron rings. Still holding today. Obviously, still working. Incredible stuff. And here comes the light. But the Bakerloo to Waterloo Railway, which is now called the Bakerloo Line, first opened its doors in 1906. This stop wasn't called Embankment. It was known as Embankment Charring Cross. The station was built to provide a vital link between the deep level tubes and the district railway upstairs. Back then, it was a marvel of Edwardian engineering, carved out of the City of London clay, to connect the suburbs to the heart of the city's riverside. If you think navigating the Bakerloo is tricky, imagine being passengers in the earliest 20th century. Between 1906 and 1976, this station went through a dizzying series of rebrands. It started as Charing Cross, then it became Embankment in 1914, then Charing Cross again in 1915, then finally in 1976 it officially became Embankment to avoid confusion with the newly combined Jubilee and Northern Line hub nearby. Next time you pull into the southbound platform in the game, take a look at the curvature. It's one of the sharpest on the line. This is the home of the most famous Mind the Gap announcements in the world. Fun fact, for years the station used a Pacific 1950s recording of actor Oswald Lawrence. When it was replaced by a digital system, his widow petitioned London Underground to bring his voice back so she could hear him one last time. To this day, the original recording is still used here. As we throttle up and head under the Thames towards Waterloo, remember that you're just not driving through a tunnel, you're driving through over a century of London's pulse. Waterloo. And yes, before anybody asks, I did hum the ABBA song as we pulled in. But I'm not doing it on video. Don't want a copyright strike. Waterloo is the busiest station on the entire London Underground in real life. The mainline Waterloo station above is the busiest in the UK for passenger numbers. This place is just an absolute hub. National Rail, Jubilee Line, Northern Line, they are all converge here. Longer dwell time needed, game reflects that with more passengers. Watch the numbers on the platform. Lots boarding, doors holding, right, we're clear. Closing, 2 stops to go, we're nearly at Elephant and Castle. Lambeth North, penultimate stop. Quiet little station this one. The Imperial War Museum is nearby above ground. Worth a visit if you're in the area. Free entry. Clean stop doors, and now the final approach. Elephant and Castle. Here we come. Okay, Paddington Castle, end of the line. No pressure, but I really want this to be a perfect stop. This one matters. Speed check, platform coming into view. We can see the markers. Braking now, steady, easy on the brakes. Yes, that was a beautiful stop. Right on the marker-ish. That's what it's all about. Elephant and Castle, one of London's oldest and most interesting areas. The name is thought to come from a pub which used to be on this spot. The sign showed an elephant with a castle on its back. It was an image associated with the Cutlers Company. The area has had a significant regeneration over the years, but it still has its gritty South London character. We arrived. Queen's Park to Elephant and Castle, all 15 underground stations done.